Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Fritz Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. On this week's episode, we've got a repeat customer along with his well-known photographer, friend-slash-collaborator, who's done some record covers you're definitely familiar with. It's Ruban Nielson and Neil Krug. Now, Nielson is the frontman of Unknown Mortal Orchestra, the band he started in his native New Zealand before relocating to Portland, Oregon, where he still lives. UMO, as the band is affectionately known, has often been categorized as psych rock, but I'm not sure that label is accurate or really complete. There's definitely some oil lamp vibes going on, but there's something more personal and direct happening underneath all the swirling guitars and hooks. That's maybe never been more true than on this year's Curse EP, which was Nielsen's way of writing and creating through the grief of his younger sister's untimely death from cancer. He channeled that energy into songs that were also inspired by 70s Italian horror movies and gloomy metal records, but somehow it's not really a bummer at all. Check out a little bit of Death Comes from the Sky from the Curse EP right here. As you know, if you're a regular listener of this podcast, we mostly feature musicians, occasionally actors, every once in a while a producer or a writer. But I'm not sure if in all these years we've ever welcomed someone chiefly known as a photographer. That changes today with Neil Krug, whose photographs you've likely seen even if you don't know his name. Krug is maybe best known for his shots of Lana Del Rey, and he also did the iconic cover of Tame Impala's The Slow Rush. He and Ruban go way back, having worked on artwork and photos for UMO over the years, and maybe in the future, as you'll hear. In this great conversation, these two chat about the making of Curse, working together on UMO's Sex and Food record, as well as other UMO stuff, the ridiculously over-the-top reaction of Ruban's fans to his dabbling in AI, and the joys of David Lynch. Enjoy.
How are you? I'm good. Yeah, it's been a good summer. It's pretty hot. It's like a heat wave right now, I think, in Portland. I think it was around 100 yesterday. I'm not sure. I was out at the lake with some family members and stuff. Awesome. Yeah, we just had to get away from the house. Portland's not very nice when it gets too hot. How about you? How's your summer going?
Been lovely, man. I've just been in project mode for the most part, making mixes at the house and doing things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, catching up with you recently was really rewarding because you got to play me the new record. I think I was it was like a week before it came out.
It's been good to have that out. I just, I didn't have a very good year. My family had some tragedy, and then that record was kind of just me trying to get back to some kind of, I don't know, just I was in a really nihilistic kind of state, so that's kind of what came out, and I kind of feel like myself again. You know, when you lose somebody, when somebody you love dies, you kind of don't want it to get back to normal. I don't know if you can relate to this, but it's like you just kind of, it feels like getting back to normal is like insulting to the person that you lost or something, or like you kind of just want to stay in mourning, but it's just not possible. You know, you can't stay there. It doesn't feel healthy. You start to go into therapy mode, whether you like it or not. You know, start finding things to find equilibrium. And I think it's like music, you know, art is kind of like reconnecting with that is really important, you know, when you realize that you actually need to make it and it's not something you do or make money or anything like that. It's actually how you stay alive.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It almost feels like by not staying in mourning, it's almost like you're abandoning them in a weird way.
I don't know what else you're supposed to do, how else you deal with life apart from like making stuff. You know?
Yeah. How quickly when did the recording for Curse begin? Was that something that was happening last year during this event? Or
yeah.
I don't know how much of this you want to share, but was it more of a reaction to that event and you just kind of going like, I need to get this out of me?
It started last year. Yeah, there was something in the air. It was kind of weird because it had been a pretty dark couple of years. Like my life and my immediate family, like my children and stuff, like we've been okay, like we've been doing great, but my wider family had been going through a lot of crazy stuff, like bad luck, and there'd been a lot of like people passing away and stuff, and so that's kind of, I guess, where the curse thing came from, because it was like getting so bad, and these things weren't all related. There was just so much bad fortune sort of falling on my family that I just, some people in my family started getting really superstitious. So it had already been like this. I lost a really close friend really recently as well, and like it just felt like everything just felt like really, really dark, And then my sister got really sick, and so that was the thing that really took me out. But also was kind of the thing that made me kind of desperately start to record and stuff, because I was trying to get out of my head and stop, being this kind of, because it's like a thing, life gets so big sometimes that you just think, what am I doing? I don't want to make music. It's stupid,
Yeah.
And then when you spend a lot of time around, like particularly like nurses, spending a lot of time around nurses, and then realizing like, oh wow, these people, their job is just looking after people who are in these hopeless situations. Like my job is to play guitar solos. It's really pathetic. And so I just kind of like, it starts to feel really stupid. But then it's weird because like after a while, it sort of had the opposite effect. Like I started to think like, oh, now I have something to start to kind of like heal myself, Yeah, so it started last year. I did like one song, and it was like, I think Boys with Characteristics of Wolves was done, which is one of the songs on the EP, by the way. And it's like it's one of the, that was like kind of finished already before any of this stuff happened with my sister getting sick and passing. So it's like it was the rest of it that came after all of that. And yeah, so it was weird. It was just, but that's just the way it is. Sometimes it's like often that happens. Like I often start a project that's ready to be finished after the things that happen in my life occur. Yeah, I usually know what the name of the record's going to be, but I don't know why I want to make a record that is called that, or why, I kind of don't know what's going on. And then all of the stuff that's out of my control happens to me. And then I'm like, oh, that's what I was feeling or whatever. So that mysterious process is like part of, why I keep making music, because it's just like, there's no way of explaining why that keeps happening, So what have you been up to since like end of last year?
Well, if you don't mind, just before we get into that, I just wanted to talk just a little bit more about the record, because
Okay.
I mean, this, I've said this to you for years. Aside from us working together, I'm such a fan of your music, and I'm always so excited about whether you're putting a new piece of, full length album out or an EP, but even the SB mixes, which I've spoken to you about for years, are some of my favorite things that you do. And those are hugely inspirational to me, especially when I'm building projects. I put those on in the studio. But first is an incredible piece of work. And I called you up immediately after hearing it and started to chat with you, because when you presented it to me, you were like, oh, this is just so down, and it's just one of the darker things, and I don't think I'm going to do anything like this again. And I thought it was, for all the dark things about it, it was actually very light as well, especially the way that it ends. There's something about this work that feels incredibly personal, and also you're like, going into it's like a boat being pushed really far out into the ocean with like no way of coming back, is also kind of the way I felt listening to it as well. But I don't know if there's any way to comment on that, but I enjoyed it greatly, and I think it'd be interesting to see where you go after this.
Yeah, well, there's some aspects of it that I think I want to keep exploring. Like Curse is supposed to be an album, but I think that I'd put so much, I don't know, I'd kind of put a certain amount of, like, it just felt really potent from what I thought was halfway finished. And I also thought that like there was a really I've used this word a lot, like talking about it for some reason, but it had a nihilistic being to it, or I was in a nihilistic kind of state. And it doesn't really show up in the music that much because to me it sounds like somebody healing from a trauma rather than like pouring the trauma into what they're making. But one of the things that I realized I was pretty nihilistic was that I started dabbling in AI, like using AI stuff, and it was all visual kind of stuff, but it's sort of like the opposite of what I'd usually do. You know, it's kind of like very out of character.
Is that where the cover image came from?
Yeah, partly. The still stuff was after I'd done some video stuff. So I actually did a lot of video stuff that people haven't seen. People haven't seen it because the response to the first one I put out was so bad that I just thought people don't get what I'm doing here, so I'll just leave it there. If I put any more stuff out, people are just gonna get more angry and they don't get it. And then I started making visual stuff, like still stuff, which was more, I would say, I guess, a hybrid thing. Mixing, like, after I'd become familiar with the AI stuff, I kind of started mixing it with my photography and using Photoshop and printing physical copies of things that were a combination of analog photography and AI, just to make it even more confusing. But I still think there was something like perverse about it, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think it is, but like it is a sort of, you know, I think the way people look at it, it is sort of unholy, like perverse. There is something that offends people's idea of what's natural in AI. And I think it's because you can sort of see it in the images. They're like unsettling in that way. But I was feeling so unsettled, like just really gross and traumatized and all the stuff. And I kept seeing AI images and I was like, man, I can never come up with anything as pessimistic as what AI can produce. Like, this is the creepiest stuff there is. And so I thought eventually, which is kind of something I often do, is like the thing that I was against, like I had to figure out how to use it, figure out what it was all about. But I think it's weird because people get mad and think it's like a very negative thing, but it's like, yeah, I mean, the album's the record's called Curse. It's like obviously supposed to be like about like that. I don't know how much more obvious I would have to be about it before people understand it, but I suppose that's the thing when you make stuff. It's like you can't expect everybody to get what's happening. I don't know what your thoughts are about it.
First of all, you should send me some of that stuff. I want to see what you did. But my feeling about it is to me, it almost feels like maybe the reaction to even the early days of sampling or something, how that was maybe considered, you know, faux pas, and or we're just stealing music and appropriating it into music. I just feel like it's one of those things that it's so new and there's feels like a bit of a dirty word in Hollywood because of, you know, visual effects and things like that and jobs being taken away. But at the same time too, it's like those tools are out there and people are going to be using them. You know, kids in their parents' basements are going to be making avatar level work, you know.
Yeah.
Like that might be happening right now. And I think for you to use it in the way that you did, it feels almost like Dario Argento meets Mario Bava on acid or something. And then you kind of did that. Turn that into like the official music video, I think is brilliant.
I think the circumstances that the technology is in the world are just, you know, so heinous that it kind of does make you wonder whether there's going to be like any real place for this. It's like the psychic elements of it are kind of tainted by this idea that the people that own it and the people that build it, you know, everything that is wrong with the world right now. And so they want to eat the world and turn it all into money. And nobody talks about the actual technology itself and what it's capable of, except in some anticipation of like how much money everybody who owns it is going to make. And the technology is like really remarkable. Like I did a lot of taking my photography and then putting into a video generator to extend the frames, doing things like that. The fact that there's actually a machine that can kind of do this stuff, it's so far beyond what anybody's linear, you know, intuition about what software is capable of doing with images. I think part of it is like people are scared because it's a leap, you know, like the technology has leapt ahead so quickly that people are like literally scared of it, like it's like magic voodoo stuff too, which I think
Yeah.
like I don't really want to be a part of that aspect of the backlash because it just seems really backwards, and I don't know how you fix the problem with like all the associations that AI has. But I know I've had a lot of like people attacked me like very personally in a way that I just didn't really anticipate. Like I knew people would get mad at it, but I didn't understand how mad. And then the other part that's crazy about it is like, what if the people that were really mad at me weren't even human? What if they were actually bots and AI? Maybe, like maybe the backlash is like manufactured because it disappeared as well. It lasted 2 days. There were a lot of people that seemed really angry about it, and then later it was like, and then it just kind of disappeared, like it evaporated. And I was like, wow, I got kind of descended on by this like swarm of bots or something. And then, yeah, but at the same time, it's like I think that the effect of all of that, like all those gross feelings that AI create, the imagery kind of can create. That's what I was drawn to because I felt so awful that I couldn't. Like the idea of people are saying, "Oh, you should collaborate with your friends, and you should, find creative people in Portland that." Or something, and just like, making real stuff, and it's like, that was too optimistic. It felt like that's fun, like I was thinking like, you must not know what it's like to be depressed, it's like, I didn't want to go out and do something really optimistic, like go out and make a horror film with my buddies. When people are mourning, like a lot of the time they'll act out of character. And sometimes people will just become drug addicts overnight, or do something that is just completely like, and people will be like, you're not being yourself, And I thought that part of it seemed obvious as well. Like it's the guy that doesn't allow digital photography at concerts because we have an analog only policy at our shows now, and we've had that for a few years. Just because I just think, let's just like, why not?
You're kidding. An only policy. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like the last thing everybody got really mad at me about was like the analog only thing. Whereas now, then the next thing that people got mad about was the AI thing.
You're just a pain in the ass, man. What can I say?
Well, just because it's like it's so pretentious, and it's like, well, I don't know, just the way that I think about it now, because we just did this thing where the tapers at our concerts, we're looking for like actual tapers who are taping with tape. So, and I was just like, this is the next thing that everyone's going to get mad about because it's going to be inconvenient. But analog is inconvenient, and I don't know if it's pretentious or not. I just know that to me it's more interesting. So I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with my life apart from do what I think is cool, and with my band. So I like the idea of creating a little world where things are only photographed, analog, and things are only recorded analog and stuff like that. But I also know that I'm really undermining myself by then just suddenly leaping across and doing AI. But that's just like some part of my personality that is to stop people from thinking I'm some kind of purist or something, that it's really about the past, because it's not so much about the past. Like it's not about wishing that things were like they were when I was a kid or something. It's that I was a kid and things were a certain way when I was a kid. I'm not trapped in the past. It's more like I'm trapped in my childhood, if that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, anyway.
You're preaching to the choir. Most of my life is an analog inconvenience as well. So, but it's always worth it.
It's partly your fault. I'm heavily influenced by you. Seeing your work at a certain point in my life, like, changed my view on, because you're not a purist. You kind of react to any medium as itself, like you take a lot of digital photography as well, and you treat it digitally. You don't sort of try to turn it into Polaroid film or whatever. You kind of like react to the strength of each medium. But I think I'm a bit more fetishistic. I'm one of those people that is fetishistic about the analog side of things, but at some point that starts to feel a little bit stupid and silly, to be like so analog only starts to feel a little bit like you're cosplaying, right? And I would sort of try to avoid that. I feel like I'm influenced by you in that way too. Like, even though you're sort of one of my favorite analog photographers, you never seem trapped in in this like ancient, like analog world. And I know a lot of photographers that are just kind of like throwbacks or just get on a soapbox about analog film and stuff like that.
It's an amazing medium, but it's a choice of what is the best tool to use at that time. I'm not a
Yeah.
purist like that at all, and I know you're not either. And it's like, it just is what's the most appropriate thing to get this image across. And for me, the photography, that side of things was not intended. It was just the way that I found the best way to communicate the idea, and and it just evolved from there.
It helps you to make your argument for the fact that certain analog formats are like the most beautiful formats, because you're not kind of like coming from some ideological standpoint where you argue for it. You always seem like the kind of person who'd be like, hey, if you could be the most digital thing I've ever seen. If it looks beautiful, then I'm going to gravitate towards it. And I feel that way about it too. Like, I'm not obsessed with tape because I'm some kind of, because I have a fetish about the past or anything. It's just, I literally think it sounds better than everything else. It's just my own taste. Love for that of your digital camera that came out where I just thought, this is the best. I'd love to hear something in the box or find a plugin that I can run everything through that made it sound better than anything I'd ever heard before. I would love to hear that. I just haven't heard it yet, but I'm always ready for it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about just how we met too, because I think it's interesting. I've known you, I think, 13 years, and we met over photos. This would have been 2012, I think.
That sounds right, yeah.
My dear friend at the time, Trevor Tarzinski, used to design for me. He and I did all the early records together. Ladytron and Scissor Sisters, et cetera, et cetera. He and I were in his studio one day, and he knew I was a bit of a psych head. And he was like, have you heard this new band? And he played me How Do You Love Me for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to do something with this band. This is amazing. But yeah, shortly thereafter, which is amazing, is Greg Rogov messaged me. And he was like, hey, man, I'm playing with this new band, Unknown Mortal Orchestra. We're thinking about like getting in touch with you to do some photos. And then you and I met, I think, shortly thereafter.
I already was familiar with your work, and I think the label was Buggy to take some photos. And I knew Greg. Greg had started playing drums with us, and then I knew that he'd been in Devendra's band and that he was kind of a little bit more plugged in than we were, because it was, still such a small indie band and stuff. And when he said that he knew you and that he could ask, I was a little bit like, what? No, that doesn't, something's not right here. Like when, and I thought like, oh, we can afford it or something. And then the next thing you know, we're just taking these photos, and they're still, your photos are still probably my favorite of us that we've ever taken. We just kind of drove around and took some photos. We didn't have a set, we didn't have stylists or anything like that. They look so glamorous to me. Like they're really cool. And I think that was the process that started. I hadn't gone instantly like, oh, everything has to be analog. And I think part of that was because we were taking digital with you as well. So there were plenty of the photos that were good that were digital. So, but I kind of became more analog only later on. I think just to clean things up, just to make it so let's try this. And I love the limitations of just saying, no, we're only going to do this. Like I kind of thought everybody was in digital now, and if you wanted it to look more old fashioned, you'd have to take it into Photoshop. So I was a pretty big Photoshop guy. And then and then the next thing you have a land camera or something, like modified land camera or something, right? I don't know exactly what it is, and I don't know if that's a secret or what, but you had Polaroid, and all the Polaroid, you used this old Polaroid, and then you were even using the peel stuff, which I'd never seen before. And then I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, it's like you can just pretend the last 20 years didn't even happen. Like, that's an awesome way to the work, just kind of creates a different way of approaching everything.
I remember us cracking up on the beach when we were doing that shoot because the look that you guys had on for that shoot was almost like this hippie goth thing going on. Like it was a bit like 60s, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was wearing capes.
Apes.
I was wearing a lot of capes back then. I think it was some kind of shawl, because I didn't have I lost one. I kept buying capes I'd go to a thrift store and I'd find a cape and then I would lose it.
It was a good look, but I was trying to do this double exposure with you. And for those of you who know, sometimes to get the best version of that, you need to have a black background. So I was trying to get people behind you to hold the cape higher. And I kept asking everyone to hold the cape higher for Ruben so we could get a nice shot of you, so I could do the double exposure on the beach, which is that shot, I think.
Oh, yeah, me and Jake, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, just pretty classic stuff. I hate saying it's classic when it's pictures of us, but I could say it in relation to your work, I think.
Let's say it. It's classic. I love it. Then shortly thereafter, I joined you. I think it was maybe a couple years later. We connected again in Mexico, and you and I ran around with the guys.
Yeah, those are really cool too. And it was more of a tough era. I'm looking at pictures now. I got slightly buff then. I think I was going to the gym a lot, and so it kind of more. I looked a little more beefy. It was a fun day too, being in Mexico City and just running around, stealing shots. It was really cool.
I think there was a conversation that I was having with Tom at the time, your manager, about joining you guys for a show or just coming and hanging out. And he was like, "You can meet Ruben up, meet up with Ruben here, or Mexico City." And I was like, "Let's definitely do that." So we joined you guys for I think 2 days or whatever, and it was the first time that I think I cornered you two about us doing something bigger than just a photo shoot, like us doing a real album package. And that was the first time that you and I kind of really loaded the idea of what would it look like if we worked in a bigger capacity together?
Right. Yeah. And that led to Sex and Food, doing all of the images for Sex and Food.
I think so. Yeah. I just remember us being in Mexico City and we went around the city and just we were grabbing shots and then just going up into weird churches and stopping and snapping a few. And then I think later that evening, you pulled me aside, and at the time I was tinting the photos with Pinky. I always put blue tint on her face or her body, and you came up to me a little shy, and you're like, "Hey, when you finish these, can you make me blue?" And I was like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah. I still have this thing about blue, being blue. I don't know. It's just really funny. I think that was when it started. I was like, I wonder if Neil can make me blue. And that led to Sex and Food, the Sex and Food stuff.
Originally, you had a different title, which you don't have to reveal, but there was the project had a different title for a minute.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Well, because I kept all the correspondence and
You tell people?
whenever here, I'm going to text it to you first. So if you don't want to say it. Yeah. Here, I'll send it to you right now. All the early decks that I made for you had this title. And then I think you texted me or you called me. You're like, "Hey, I'm going to change the album title."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it was originally the working title was Hard Romance. And then I think the reason was because I had a song called that. And I was thinking it was good. And the song, for some reason, the song was the center of the whole record. And then it just didn't work. And it's funny because I had friends that I'd send that to were just like, "Man, you got to finish that song or whatever." But if the song didn't work, then the title was kind of out there on its own.
Yeah.
Without the song to stick up for it. And then also thought, I think the album, I went with this paranoia that my records are going to be a really massive bummer. And, and they're going to be too influenced by depression and stuff like that. And then I thought Sex and Food was a way of obfuscating, instead of, this is nothing deep. Nothing deep's going on in this record.
Yeah.
It's just a fun record, Sex and Food, all the stuff people like. And then so that was the reason that ended up being the title of the record, just because it was a contrast.
That was an amazing process. You would start sending me raw mixes of things that you had just finished at that time. And I remember a conversation we had around those days as well was you had asked me, could you go make a piece and then I'm going to try and fit the music into whatever you make.
Yeah.
So I started sending you pictures of what I was then working on with Pinky, with kind of just with that soundtrack in mind. So the first pieces of music you sent me were Major League Chemicals, and I think The Ministry of Alienation, which is on that album.
Yeah.
I put it on and it blew my fucking mind. And I took a walk with it in the park that's near my house. And I'm like listening to it over and over again, just kind of brainstorming. And a pack of fucking coyotes comes out of nowhere and just runs right past me, like 12 coyotes, as Major League Chemicals is blasting in my headphones. And I was like, that's pretty amazing. Yes. But then, we got to work. And Pinky and I did like, I think 10 different shoots for that record, one of which is her in the teardrop jacket, the kind of like biker character, the fencing character, the schoolgirl character. I mean, we just did like as many different ideas as we could come up with, and then we just gave you everything.
Yeah.
And that's still one of my favorite covers that I've done. It's got such a simple, clean, elegant thing going on with it. It's almost like a pearl or something. I feel like it stood the test of time too. It still looks fresh to me when I see it.
Yeah, I really like it. And like everything you sent me could have been the cover. All that work that you guys did has that weight and beauty of like a record cover. For some reason, that one had all the idea that we were talking about somehow in it, but feeling still effortless. You guys were on something. Because it was, there's a thing outfit that kind of looks sci-fi because it looks like a space uniform.
Didn't you record that album in like 10 different places or something? Like you were in...
Oh, yeah. It was. Yeah. We went all over the place. Yeah, it was like Iceland, some of it was Vietnam, Korea. Yeah, just trying to get out of my basement. Not really that one.
One of the things I've always been curious about with you, and I've asked you about this, whether it's like the SB mixes that you're doing, or if it's the Hanoi album, or if it's, these things, which to me are interesting because it's completely different side of you. It's your non-pop song writing record. It's like this other area that you go into where it's like, I'm going to do these intense instrumental works that are not the traditional UMO record. And I'm curious, is that in the same spirit as what you're talking about with the first record, where you just need to get it out?
I just don't spend most of my time in the studio singing, so I just sort of spend a lot of time just making music with no real goal.
Yeah.
And some of those things like cross over into the records, I don't know what you call the records, the singing on them, but the normal records, I guess. And then there's a lot of stuff that I do that is just for fun, just for me. And then after a while, I just started putting that out because I just felt like, I don't know, I guess there's part of me that was thinking like I'm proud of it enough to put it out. So I don't know, I guess I spend a lot of time in the studio just kind of trying stuff out, like if I get a new piece of equipment and something like that, sometimes I'll just make music around testing that piece of equipment and see what it does, and I don't want the pressure of experimenting with something and then also having to come up with a product,
Yeah.
But then some of it just comes out like I want people to hear it because I just have this thing about wasting music. Like I don't like the idea of wasting time and wasting music, which is like another reason why I have trouble collaborating, because I know in the pop world, just people just record so much music that they never put out.
I think it's great because I think, especially right now, you just put out the Bogota record, which has only been out. Yeah, which to me, it's in that world that I'm describing. It's like a non-traditional thing that you're doing, but I love it. It's some of my favorite music that you've made. It's so different.
Well, that's more the jamming stuff. That I guess it comes out in a similar way because it's instrumental, but the philosophy is kind of different. Whereas the SB stuff is more just experimentation and with just like one other person or by myself, and then the IC stuff is more the band, hanging out and like jamming. So like everything that ends up on those records is usually recorded in the moment, So they're actually kind of easy in that way too, because it's like the whole record is already finished and all I have to do is mix and edit it.
Oh, I love it, man. I've told you for years, that stuff is incredible. Feels like soundtracks to films for me in a way. There's something about it that they kind of like go into that space atmospherically.
I do think a lot when I'm making music, even when I make my music that I sing on, I kind of want it to be the kind of thing that could be in a film. Not because I'm like angling for that, just because I feel like a lot of the most powerful musical moments are when you're watching a film, you know?
Yeah.
I was actually watching Lost Highway with my son last night, the Lynch movie, and he's in a Lynch thing at the moment, so he wants me to show him all the David Lynch stuff, which is like such a fun thing. And I hadn't watched it since it came out, so it was like there's so many soundtrack moments, and it's so current to that time, and like there's the kind of like mid-late era Bowie stuff, you know, kind of it's like when he was getting into like drum and bass kind of stuff. It's like one of those songs in there, and there's like a Rammstein, like a lot of Rammstein in it. But it's like it's so cool, and you know, it's like, you know, kind of music that can be dropped into a film in that way and work. And like, I just think songs, they don't necessarily have to be in a film, but they have to be the kind of song that could be in a scene of a film and sound cool. You know? So I do think about that. I was going to ask you, can I ask you a question about, you never told me the story of the Tame Impala artwork, and I was really, I saw something about it being, it's in Morocco, is it?
It's in Namibia.
Namibia. Okay, so have you told that story of like this, you know,
did.
like on a podcast?
Never on a
Can we
podcast.
talk about it now? Have you talked about it too much, or can we talk about it now?
Today is the day. Let's do it. Because you asked nicely.
Well, it's an interesting thing. You know, it's like it's such a mysterious artwork.
You know, I've known Kevin off and on for 15 years, since the early days, and I have a similar relationship with him that I probably have with you, where it's like you see each other every couple of years, you go make something, that kind of thing. And he moved to Los Angeles in 2019, and we just caught up a bit, and I shot some stuff for some singles, and then he and I started talking about what to do for the record, and he had the idea of going to Namibia to shoot this cover. And at first, I was almost a little reluctant at first, because I didn't think anyone would want to pay for this initially. Yeah. But thankfully, the powers that be said yes, and we were able to go do it. So what we ended up doing was we hired my producer, Taylor, got in touch with the South African production team, and we went to Kolmanskop, which is in Namibia, and we took over the town for a few days. We just shut it down. And because it's a big tourist hub, and essentially what it is, it's a town that was once a big mining town in the 50s, and then once the diamonds ran out, everyone just left. And so the city has just been reclaimed by the nearby sand dunes. So that sand is just blowing around this area day in and day out. So Kevin had the album cover image in mind, I think based off of National Geographic photo. I might be wrong about that, but he had seen the image before. It was like, I think this is the story I want to tell. Now, arriving and walking through the rooms, the thing that has to be kind of expressed is it's pretty depressing. The rooms are destroyed. There's graffiti everywhere. The ceilings are caving in. Yeah, it's incredible, but it wasn't the uplifting, magical, cosmic thing that it needed to be. And then, of course, most of the rooms were very like tracked out. There was like footprints in the sand, and it was just a mess. So how we went about making the pictures was we literally used leaf blowers to clean the sand.
Okay. Wow.
And I photographed every single room in every single building in the town. Once we got back to LA, Kevin and I sat in this room and we just looked at everything and were like, well, what do we want to do with this? I was like, I think we make the album cover red, because at that time I was looking at his previous works and I was like, you don't have a red cover in a discography. And I think it's going to suit the room really well. So I created like artificial sunlight in the room, cleaned the room. I basically reconstructed the room and the various shots for about a month. And that's the package.
Wow. It's even more involved than I thought, because it does come across as like it was already like that. And it just kind of like was there for you to wander through and take the pictures. It's really cool. It's amazing.
I remember quickly, I think his A&R guy, when he saw just the raw photos, was very confused how we were going to turn that into something. Yeah. Like, I think he thought we were out of our minds, which we are. But yeah, it turned out it's a good one. I'm glad we kept it.
I kind of feel like that's how you know you're like a little bit on the right track, and people start thinking you've lost your mind a little bit.
We got to do another one too, Ruben. We got to do another cover.
Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds fun.
I think we should change it up completely. Let's do like a surf cover, like a surf campaign, like a 60s. It's like not quite sunshine pop, but it's like there was like these movies in the 60s, like the Beach Girls and the Monster. It's like a creature on the beach with some babes or something.
One day I have to do my Laurel Canyon CIA COINTELPRO, like a psychedelic record full of feds and like nasty kind of ops and stuff.
Let's do it.
I kind of have a name for the next record that might end up getting changed as well, so maybe it's almost time to get into it. I kind of feel like the next record is going to be an extension of Curse, but I got all of the really nasty feelings are out with the whole AI thing and like all of the really the kind of darker more gross themes. Although, like, I like listening to Curse. Like, I've listened to it in the car and stuff like that. It doesn't remind me of like bad things. It reminds me of getting over bad things. So that's cool. I'm really proud of that side of it. But I'm ready to move past that thing. But I do want to make some more music that's like that. You know, or, next record probably. I don't know what's going to happen. Will probably be the opposite of whatever I say, but I think it's going to be more heavy music. I feel like writing. I feel very like rock music at the moment. So, and like Ozzy dying was a kind of a crazy thing to happen because I did feel like my friend Ollie, who got me into Black Sabbath when I was a kid, died a couple of years ago, and I feel like Curse is partly dedicated to him, and I just felt like this thing about Ozzy like receding from the world. You know, it was already a thing that was like happening for anybody that like follows Black Sabbath. It was kind of knew that he wasn't going to be there, and I just feel like sort of like a responsibility. Like you got to keep that energy in the world because it's like it brought me a lot of joy. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna I think my Sabbath phase is going to continue. So I don't know. Maybe we should talk.
Yes. Yeah. Another serving, sir. Yeah. I mean, you know where I stand. You don't have to sell me on sticking with heavy music. My God, man. Yeah, I love it. Let's get into it. I'll start sending you some ideas. Let's do like a West Coast doom record.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the desert now, and I think the thing about out there in the desert is that's where Caius and Queens of the Stone Age and Masters of Reality and all those bands are from, and I feel like it gets into you that kind of like that pride, heavy kind of music. I can start to see that as like I can see how you make music like that in the desert now. Like I think it's quite brutal out there in a lot of ways. You know, it's like a spooky kind of place.
Yeah, I need to come out and visit you out there sometime and just like shoot the breeze.
I'm still out there a lot. I still like it. I think it's partly a foil to here. It's like almost like the opposite of Portland in some ways. It's like I feel lucky to be able to do that. But in some ways darker there than it is here, even though Portland is very spooky in a really obvious kind of Twin Peaks kind of way. The desert is sort of, it's a darker place really than the Pacific Northwest. It's Pacific Northwest is kind of it's very friendly, kind of spooky up here.
It occurred to me that Ozzy and David Lynch passed away this year, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it.
It's also weird because I just felt like we were going to lose a bunch of people like that kind of gave us our like dark, spooky aesthetics when we were young, and it just makes me think like, you know, we kind of like need to keep the dream alive.
No, you're not wrong.
And it's like when it's like an introduction because I'm kind of reliving this stuff because my son's 16 and he's just like discovered it as a new thing, and it's just like it just takes me back. You know, it's like discovering these things when you're a kid. You're like, oh yeah, this stuff changes your life, you know. But then, you know, son being 16 and going from regular movies to kind of discovering Lynch, it's like, it kind of reignites us like the idea. It's like, man, it's so important. Like it, so there's a lot of get to like cinema and then weird movies, stuff like that.
I'm jealous.
Black Sabbath's the same thing, Black Sabbath's the same. It's like that in a band form, Sometimes you forget what it's like to be like 15 years old and hear Black Sabbath at a friend's house, and then it's just like so perfect, It's like perfect music.
I had the exact same reaction as a youngster. I didn't know when I was listening to it that it was older music. I heard Paranoid and I heard Iron Man on the radio in the 80s, and I thought it was new music. I didn't understand that it was whatever it was at that time, 20. It had already been out 20 years or whatever. I just took it as a brand new piece of music.
Yeah, I honestly think that the reason that people are less interested in the future as now is because we're going in the wrong direction, and we don't want to accelerate that and kind of want to go back. It's like if you get lost in the woods, you want to go back to a landmark that you're sure about, and then orient yourself so that you can figure out which way you want to go.
I'm so jealous of your son that he's getting to see this stuff for the first time.
Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of like something that I discover about having kids is you kind of like vicariously relive these things and as well. But yeah, you can't. It's just like the first time it's watching him discover David Lynch. Like he's this brand new guy that he just discovered. It's like, dude, the guy just died. We just lost him. And it was watching David Lynch that brought me out of that normal thing of needing to know exactly, having the continuity of everything match up in a way that left me satisfied at the end of the movie. Like that feeling of getting to the end of the movie and going, what the fuck? Like it starts to get you that addicted to that kind of creativity.
It's magical person, magical artist. Always a pleasure, man.
We should get a coffee, beer, or something. I'll tell you when I'm in California again.
Yeah, let's do both, and let's get to work on our beach themed surf rock campaign.
Okay, all right. Well, just you got my number.
Yeah. I'll text you later. Yeah, sounds good, man.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to Ruban Nielson and Neil Krug for chatting. If you liked what you heard, please follow Talkhouse on your favorite podcasting platform and check out all the great stuff at talkhouse.com. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.